I imagine this is the last time actually the name Christofer Bodegard will have to be introduced to anybody. Actually,
I thought you were going to say it's ever spoken again.
No, quite the opposite. I imagine that's probably that's a good point. Actually, one of my earliest questions. I'm going to spoil my own incredibly clever first question of the interview. It took me weeks to come up with this first question for you, Christoffer. So just in case everyone's going insane at my terrible editing at this point and what the fuck I'm doing with this interview, I think it's important to point out that because I've spoken to Chris before, I am quite relaxed actually speaking to Chris, and if you've seen the first time we spoke, it was basically his podcast anyway. he just spent like 2 hours teaching me about agency and like what he had planned for his game. It was fantastic.
Ranting, that's what it's called.
Ranting, yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, he was an old man yelling at several clouds last time. But so where was I going with that? I don't know. This is the Human Can Opener podcast, and I interview people, right? So my first question, as I've already said, to you, creator of Esoteric Ebb, is I should definitely edit in a drum roll. Who are you voting for in the election?
Oh yeah. I get that question all the time, like because it's obvious. I think I've answered it once today already, which is
excellent.
I've worked on the answer a lot.
Okay.
You excited to hear?
I am excited to hear.
Okay, so the best answer is definitely to say that first of all, when it comes to like Esoteric Ebb, you have the cleric. The cleric is all of these different political views in his head. And the best part about writing that game, 100%, is the fact that I get to explore those thoughts alongside Rang. That's the whole point. Because I'm a duality of man sort of situation. You have a bunch of different political thoughts. You have a bunch of different like conflicting situations where like political thought might clash with the fact that I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in a business. I'm trying to make money. All right. Yeah. So that might clash with some ideals on like how to run a business, how to make money goes against how to actually treat people well. And if you take Rang in that situation, then that's basically just me having fun and exploring those thoughts out on the paper, which is why I'm very specific about the fact that I never try to, it's not a fence-sitting situation, okay? I'm not a fence sitter. I just want to make that clear. But it's one of those situations where I'm not sure about anything because I'm human and I don't think anybody should be sure about anything really. But at the same time, you should have convictions and you should try to find convictions. And that's what Rang is doing, right? He's trying to find convictions in a world where everything is extra special and weird. And that's what makes it fun. And I think if I had gone into that with the idea of making arguably propaganda towards a certain viewpoint, that would have been way less interesting. And it would have been basically, it wouldn't have been a journey towards an answer. I think there is an answer to be found. You can discuss about that as much as you want once you've actually played Esoteric Ebb. I think that's super fun to read too. But what I'm voting at the end of the journey through Esoteric Ebb is I would vote for myself as the God King of Norvik, for sure. I would just take over, become a dictator. As I always say down at the incubator, like I run my business like I'm a dictator, and I want everybody to hate me, and that's great. And specifically, I do that, and then I'm imagining a world where, 30 days down the line into my dictatorship, I have shit the pants so bad, everything is on fire. I am dying from some strange illness that we didn't even know existed at the time, and that would be a glorious end, I feel, to Christofer Bodegård.
So for a moment, I thought you were giving me the most Esoteric Ebb NPC answer ever, where you never actually find out. Like they talk around it. Like some of the characters will say they'll eventually go, "Okay, well, I'm voting for this party."
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is the most fucking esoteric answer I could have hoped for," because you were like, because like a lot of the NPCs are trying to do what you've just done there and communicate that well, actually, no, you should come to your own conclusions. It's quite a big deal. Elections are important, blah, blah. And everyone will have their different reason for why you should be pursuing your own answer. Or they'll like say, I'm not fucking telling you because it's my private. And that's where I thought you were going. But you did eventually get, I'm glad, to your dreams of being Sweden's Donald Trump by the sounds of it. Oh,
sounds great. Love it. Great.
Yeah.
That's not a fucking headline. Jesus Christ.
So it's interesting. Something you touched on there was a conflict which I actually came across during my playthrough. I did get. I don't know how well. So for some, because we're using Google Meet, sometimes when you flick between applications, it can blank my screen.
Oh. Maybe fine. Probably fine.
It might be fine.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I can tell you, I remember what it was. So, I was very much an Asgalist.
What? What do you mean?
Which I suppose probably doesn't. But in a certain sense. So later on, I did find myself conflicted with the Free Striders for the exact, and you touched on exactly the conundrum that I had in my own playthrough, was that I felt a certain degree of support for the Free Striders because of what's her name, the lady you assist from the Free Striders.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah.
And when I was like, I really liked her. Just to paint the picture, and I'm sure this is lovely for you who create the game to hear this stuff, but so at the start of the game, you are presented with a very obvious political choice right the minute you come out of the Lich House, because there are some dwarves trying to set up a bunch of stuff in the square, and then you've got this Free Strider lady who's then like, she's just waiting basically for them to put up the thing because she knows that their contracts thing. But I was very supportive of the dwarves, but then I got talking to her. I was like, oh, I quite like this. She seems all right. But I was successful later on in the game of talking her back to my side. Like, she understood my point and it was okay. But then I'm like these are two completely opposite sides of ideology, and I was kind of stuck trying to please them both. I leaned more towards the Asgalist way of thinking, but and to be honest, towards the end, we should probably say spoilers all the way through, just in case, because I feel I'm already treading on dangerous territory. But I did feel glad that I didn't go too far into the Free Striders towards the end, because they have some sneaky grand plan for the world. Yeah. They wanted, so there's like I mean, we won't go too far into it, but yeah, I just liked that.
Yeah.
That whole conundrum, really. And I think it's probably the first thing that maybe people would point to as being similar to Disco Elysium. But again, something else that you said while you were explaining that was, whereas Disco Elysium quite clearly has a level of drive to communicate a form of ideology held by some of the folks in that studio. That, I mean, not everybody was, but there was a communist kind of theme to what they were trying to put across in many aspects. But you don't feel that in Ebb, which I thought was quite nice, and I did like the amount of control I had over that decision. So, yeah, very good.
It's one of those things where obviously the writers of Disco Elysium are extremely well read. Like they understand. You get a feeling that they understand historical materialism to a point where it's actually a part of the text, right? It's in it.
Yeah,
it works. And I would always argue that like I've learned a lot during the process of making Ebb, and I try to be as well read and as interesting as possible when it comes to politics when I'm actually trying to say something with it. And hopefully that can be like felt through some of the characters and some of the stuff I try to bring up, and the fact that I'm trying to mix it with stupid Fantasyland stuff, because stupid Fantasyland stuff can easily fall back into just, hey, this thing represents this allegory boringness. That sort of breaks the idea of just wanting to explore themes in a setting where you're allowed to take a step back from reality and go, okay, well, what if we explore this in an extreme setting where, you know, your cobbler is able to see the future? What happens?
Yeah.
And it becomes it just, you put those strange variables in a situation where you can look at allegory, you can look at it from a perspective where it actually impacts our world. I find that interesting, and I always try to align towards something that I find interesting, but I do it in a definitely not as well-read way that the writers of Disco Elysium do. But I'm trying to get better, and I definitely got better during the process, which is interesting. And I want to. Well, the goal is just to learn more as I go on. Just the fact that I can read so many people who have played Ebb, see different readings on it, I find very interesting. For one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. No, and I think you do yourself a disservice, actually, because I do think a lot of what's in there is smart. It's there's a lot of Ebb which doesn't take itself seriously, right? I mean, like a ton. But I
the
feel
strange balance to strike, right? It's super like you're playing D&D with your friends, and your friend happens to be a political sort of weirdo, and you know that's gonna bleed through. But that's a part of the fun. You have personality. You have Chris as a DM. So
no, and I'm going to come back to that exact point that you just made, Chris, as a DM, because I think it's very obvious to me how much of your personality is in this game. And I can't claim to know you like well, but I could sense the same kind of things that I was feeling in that conversation we had over a year ago now. But so my second question really is one. This will be an interesting answer from you, I think. How has the last couple of weeks been? Seriously, like as a human being, like, it's a long time coming. When we last spoke, you didn't even the last thing you said was, I don't think it'll be out this year, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, it's out just into the next year.
Yeah,
and you've had an amazing response from critics and fans alike. I think it's fair to say. So I just wonder how it's been for you personally, and how this whirlwind experience has been the last couple of weeks.
That's a good question. It's very interesting. I think I've had a little bit more time to process it now, which is fun. It's obviously hard to do it straight away, but I watched the. I know I keep bringing up Disco Elysium for some reason. I don't know why. But I watched the No Clip documentary. Maybe you've seen it.
Of course, yeah.
Super good, amazing.
Yeah.
And I watched the Collapse episode yesterday when it came out, and it's very interesting to see that and look at it, right after I've gone through a release of my own, releasing a video game, because everybody always says, and I know a lot of game developers here who talk a lot about it, because it's very good to talk about it, that it's a very strange thing to do. It's a very intense thing to do, and everybody kind of feels shitty about it afterwards. It's like, it's nice, it's wonderful, but it doesn't really matter what the response is. It sort of always ends up as a strangely weird and kind of bad feeling in the chest when you've released this thing that you worked on for so long, and for different reasons. Some people feel like it's a thing of releasing control of a thing that you can no longer have like ownership over just yourself. Now, I didn't feel like that. I for me, it was more a case of like, I definitely did not have in any way as harsh of a development cycle as Disco Elysium, for example, or so many other games. I was able to keep it somewhat reasonable. For me, it was like, since New Year's, I have more or less been on a, what do you call it, the death march of just working, nothing but working.
Yeah,
but that's 3 months, and I knew it was going to be 3 months, and it's like 3 months and a couple of weeks to do some patches. But it worked, right? And specifically, it worked, I think, for me because it's just me. It's we had some crunching going for on the art team, which was very unfortunate. I want to avoid that ever in the future. But they were done with that crunch at the end of January, which was very nice. And then they were like, they're done, and then they can go have a little relaxing and go back to their own stuff because they have their own company and stuff. I went on till March, and during that period, it's like you're in a trance where, especially since I'm not a solo developer, but I have control of everything going on. So I'm working with some programmers who are wonderful and take care of all the advanced stuff that messes up the project, while I just day in and day out just fix bugs, nothing but bugs. So what I'm feeling right now, and what I've like said in a few interviews so far, is the fact that I'm just happy that the game is playable. That's my number one.
Yeah.
Everything else is sort of secondary. So I think that when patch 1.1 came out and I managed to fix those last really nasty bugs, and the game is like, oh yeah, you can play through it, and we're getting reports of like minor stuff, which we're also trying to look at. But vast majority of people are going to play through it and not have it break on them. After that, I'm happy. Now it's good. It's fine. I can actually relax. But it's such a strange experience to actually have to sort of hammer out all those things for such a long time and be in a trance going towards that. Because once the game is out, it doesn't really feel like it. It feels more like, especially since we had that period of the demo being out during Next Fest.
Yeah.
Because that meant also that we had more or less a like week-long, super intense early access period, more or less, where people just, since I managed to convince Raw Fury to just let me release basically half of the game for free during Next Fest, and then just have people play through it, because that meant that we got a ton of bug reports, all of which could be fixed because I fixed them like day by day before the game even launched, which is absolutely amazing. But when the game actually launches and we managed to hit those strides and we get some really nice reviews, like wonderful reviews, amazing reviews, in my opinion, it's just, I can barely even react to it, because for me, it's just a question of, is it playable? I was shocked about the fact that the reviewers gave it such a good score because there were so many bugs in it. So that's funny. Yeah. But the actual like writing and the fact that people react to it so well, that's I'm not sure that's still like, I'm not sure that registered yet.
Hasn't sunk in yet. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just to remark a little bit on that strategy with releasing it was like the first full day, right?
Yes, basically. So the thing
I
is,
understand you can finish the game in the first day. Is that true?
So yeah, you can. So I had to. So basically, the game is entirely non-linear, except for 3 things. It's like 5 things, but it's 3 things mainly. It's number 1, in order to get past the one of the traps in the dungeon, you have to get Snell. And when you get past that trap, there's another secret door, which you have to open. And there's like 4 different ways of getting through that door. One of which is just wait and do other stuff. So it's one of those things where you get time locked. It's pretty hard to get through, but eventually you're going to get through automatically if you just wait. And once you're through that gate, you have one big battle with big bad guy, and then you unlock kind of automatically the ending of the game by just talking with some people. And that's the game. That's the entire game. It's super, super linear if you just go do those things. But the entire experience is about all those non-linear things. And it's an experiment to see if that even works to begin with. But the thing about the demo was then that essentially I saw the opportunity to just go wild and say, hey, okay, you can access everything except behind that secret door that you're probably not going to find on day 1 anyway. And then at the end of day 1, once you've slept or stayed up all night, which most people did, I'll just block you and say, buy it on release. Which worked out really well. It worked.
Yeah, I think the demo did wonders for you, because, as you said, like the discourse had already kind of been bubbling away, right? Like leading up to release, there was lots of good chat going on about it. Lots of people saying, this is looking pretty good. I think people had good vibes from the previous demos as well, of course. But and it's interesting actually, because you just mentioned there the big battle, and I have a spoiler. I have warned people of spoilers, but
it's in the trailer. It's fine.
Yeah, the troll battle. And maybe people didn't. Maybe this didn't happen for some people, but it happened for me. But I had the
immovable stick.
Yes, the immovable rod, or In fact, not only did I have that, it was one of the first items I found, and yeah, and like I remember at the time I was very much in my. In fact, actually, I think my explorative mode never ended. Really, I was so. Just to cut a long story short slightly, my intention, of course, was right. So Chris very kindly sent me a key, and I was like, right, I'm gonna really push hard now. I'm gonna finish this game. I'm gonna write the best review anyone's ever heard in time for release date, and
Good luck.
it's gonna be great for me. It's gonna be great for Chris. It's gonna be fantastic. Now, if you check my channel, there still isn't a review for Esoteric Ebb. So
a big game for some reason.
Yeah.
Christ.
So I've got. I think I've clocked 39 hours. Some of that may be idle time. Leave it because I play between Steam Deck and PC. But like in a strange way, this is kind of a compliment, a backhanded compliment, I suppose. I almost didn't care who did all of the blowing up of the tea shop because I couldn't believe just how interesting it was to walk around this town, speak to its inhabitants, and honestly, the only game I can think of that did that in the last 10 years or so is Disco Elysium. I mean, that's the highest praise I can give it. And I know it's kind of it's a double-edged sword having the Disco Elysium inspired moniker, right? But I think you've probably seen that lots of people are saying it's deserved. I think we have to take that as it's a huge compliment to be compared.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but it is a thing of like it's idiotic, right? It's really stupid to do that from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
And they try to bring it back somewhat by doing a bunch of different things, including stuff like just the art style being very different, and the focus on the marketing, of course, being way more comedic. Like I think I said at some point that it's like I'm trying to do the exact opposite from Disco Elysium, where Disco Elysium is very gritty and artsy in their marketing. Like if you watch all the trailers, it's like super amazing trailers. But they're very like this is a deep,
very cinematic and serious. Yeah. You got Lenville Brown.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Dun.
Yeah.
And then the game is just hilarious when you start playing. Like almost immediately you start laughing your ass off. It's very deep, of course. It's super, and the entire aesthetic is so but it's very funny. And I think the funniness of Disco Elysium is one of the things that actually keeps people from playing it harsh, like really, really playing it hard, and then getting into the more serious stuff. And also, of course, the thing that keeps stuff like streamers playing it, especially once they have voice acting. Esoteric Ebb is doing the exact opposite, right? It's silly, fun D&D, colorful. God, oh, he's swinging on the windmill. Look at him go. What a wacky guy. He has mommy issues. Fun. So it's like, and the deep stuff doesn't appear until a bit later in the actual thing, once you sort of hook them. And it's just I think that helped differentiate it, of course. But I'm still shocked that I got away with it, so to speak. It's like, because the thing I did essentially was look at Disco Elysium, look at the design, look at how they did that in every single respect except the writing. Like I tried to look at all the design and all the stuff they did and be like, okay, what I'm bad at design. Why did theirs work and why did mine? Because I had done a prototype a year before of this sort of D&D thing. Why did mine not work? Why am I unable to do this? And slowly over the course of several years, figure out why it worked and kind of like understand it like deeply from an agency perspective. But in the writing department, it's my writing, and it's not as poetic as Disco Elysium. It's a very different type of writing. I'm not even trying to do the same thing. Nowhere near. And I think that's the thing that really matters in the end. The fact that I could not do Disco Elysium, and I don't want to do Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium exists. It is the canon in video games. It's forever going to be there. And I'm making something that who knows what it's gonna be, but it's not Disco Elysium. Even though design wise, it's 100% inspired. So I don't know.
That's again, there's a couple of questions that pop into my head there. So the first one, so there's like, I think the reason that Ebb has been responded to as well as it has, and just to go back on how risky a marketing strategy it is to call someone, like, to call it is really, like, because you give a small indication of the bar that you're trying to aim for, right? Okay, they set the bar. We might not reset the bar, but you are communicating from that point onwards what you're aiming for. And the first thing that pops into people's head is, well, this is the greatest writing anyone's ever seen, so you've got a lot to live up to. And our friends in Rue Valley, for example, found that quite hard going, the response, because they were a very different game to Disco Elysium. I think people were looking for the writing to be the strongest part of that, whereas and people were harsh on that as a result. But with you, I think with Ebb especially, there's these little, I mean, it's interesting you talk about the design, there's these little indications that you're playing a similar kind of experience, but never at any point there was never a moment in my head where I went, oh yeah, it's just like Disco Elysium. Even though there are like very obvious things about Ebb that make it a disco like the talking skills, the right-handed text box, the partner that follows you around, and
I would say the intro too. The fact that it is black screen intro and it's like it's artsy or do. I think that really a lot of people immediately see that and go, what's Chris doing? Come on, which is perfectly understandable. And I knew that would be a thing because I tried so many different intros for the game. But the problem is that I fell in love with the idea of Speak with Dead being the intro from the perspective of the dead guy. I fell in love with that concept so much that I just couldn't remove it. And luckily, I got away with that one too. So
yeah, but I think your intro's absolutely incredible. I really do. I think it's amazing. Like, and maybe this wasn't the experience for everyone, but again, I didn't feel like it was trying to like take anything from Disco Elysium. It felt very, and I felt this throughout the whole game, honestly, Chris. I felt very much like this is my initial takeaway actually from playing it was, I've never played D&D. Okay.
many people have it. Yes.
Yeah, lots of people have it. I've experienced what D&D is supposed to be about through like Baldur's Gate or Disco Elysium and like different cRPGs. But this was the first time, or at least the closest I felt to being sat at the table with someone, because I felt like you were DMing this whole thing. And this is what I talk about with your personality coming through and why, like, I really do think, yeah, fine. There's lots of inspiration from various things beyond Disco Elysium, which I'll touch on shortly. But at no point did I feel like this wasn't a unique experience, like when different things were chiming in, or when I'd come up with a silly answer in the dialogue, I almost felt like you were responding on the fly to me as a fellow at the table, trying to make sense of why hang on a minute, you spent the last 2 hours sat here going on about the Asgalist party and now you want to fucking answer, you want to explore like the nationalist, like what are you talking, like and I really felt like you were there making fun of me, basically. You were mocking me the whole way.
Something like keeping it improvisational and just going like, all dialogues. Like when I plan out the game, I plot stuff out from the start. I make sure that the quest lines kind of intersect and actually work, because otherwise it's just chaos. But the dialogues, the actual, like when Snell and Rang go back and forth, and when you have long rants with Snurre Appledent, none of that is planned. I write that improvisationally on fly, and specifically stuff like Snurre, for example. That was like 1 week of me just sitting writing. I think something like 5,000 words a day at best, and just pushing out. And it barely got edited, because a lot of that like is just sort of like a spell checked. Sure, my wonderful editor did a lot of work on a lot of dialogues, but at the same time, it's like most of it, especially the back and forth stuff with characters, is just the first thing that pops into my head, just like when I play D&D. And that's the most natural thing. That's the thing that works, I feel.
Well, it did work, yeah, and that makes sense now. Now that you explain that, that really does make sense. Yeah, and I think I'm not the only one to remark on it. I think you've really captured a beautiful, authentic D&D experience, and that's why, like, when I see online, people are like, "Oh, you should know a disco." Like, what about that? I think, fucking hell, like, you've been whinging for 5 years for a game to come along that scratches some sort of itch, and you're fucking on Reddit going, yeah, but it's not an 11 out of 10, is it? I'm just like, God, dude, just please enjoy life. But no, it was it's a really lovely thing. I wanted to point out some of the other influences because I'm sorry, I don't know why
It's fine.
I was so impassioned there, but the internet brings that out of me, I suppose.
I do love, like, when it comes to internet comments in general, I love reading stuff like that. I usually don't interact too much because usually it becomes a thing of, like, especially when it's negative stuff, it very easily becomes a thing of, oh, the creator is coming in to defend himself against somebody who doesn't like his work. What an asshole.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy, obviously. But I genuinely love reading, especially negative opinions. Usually negative stuff just comes down to, very respectfully, wasn't for me. I respect that. It's perfectly fine. Even like negative reviews on Steam, which is like technically something that hinders potential sales and stuff. It's fine. Don't worry about it. If you didn't like it, that's a good statistical thing to know. How many people when they bought it reacted negatively versus generally positively. Awesome. But when it comes to general negative stuff that is like super hard cutting and actually like get down the brass tacks of, this is what the game could have done better. This is what, usually I just agree, because it's like, yeah, okay, I know my game better than anybody, and I know that the map could be a lot better. There's lots of dialogues that could absolutely be tighter. There's structural stuff where you could lead the player in a smoother, cleaner design, and all of that, especially in the combat too, right? There could be so much more interesting stuff to do with that, and all of that I want to bring into my next project. So I keep reading that because it's just, I just keep taking notes. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, that's. I was going to get around to something similar, actually, in my questioning, because you've mentioned now already a couple of other people who obviously playing a role in the games of programmers, and you mentioned an editor, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you about, actually. So, like, let's go again. Even if you're doing D&D, and let's say in the example of Disco Elysium, those two things are nothing without collaboration, right? And especially in the case of Disco Elysium, when they're making the game, Argo talks quite a lot about how you had to very quickly get used to being told when your writing was shit. And there was, because there were plenty of people ready to tell you, right?
Yep.
So my question really is, like, how do you, and I know it was not entirely solo, how do you as a solo dev, in quotation marks, handle that element of it? Because there was 1.2 million words. You have to have a lot of confidence in what you're writing, a fucking shit ton of confidence, in fact, especially when you're being funny. Like, it's really brave stuff. Yeah, how did you combat, like, not having a team of 20 other people to say, well, I wouldn't do this, wouldn't do that? Was it just a case where you didn't want to make a horse by committee?
I think so. I can first, when it comes to like what I wrote and what I didn't write, I can just say that because it's very fun. So I wrote the first drafts on everything in the game except 4 combat encounters that my wonderful editor took over. So technically, he shouldn't just be an editor. He should be like additional writing. He did the writing on, for example, the elf wrestling scene. No spoilers. Very greasy situation. He did the first draft on the big helpers fight, the big one with a lot of players involved. He did 2 more that I don't remember right now, and they were all really great. And basically, he gave those to me because I gave them to him. I had the signs done because I was like, at that point, I think it was like 5 months ago or so, I was so incredibly tired of writing the encounters because I had so much to write and I had so much written that I was like, yeah, you know what? This isn't lore related. It's not something that like I have to explain everything that has to be done. It's just perfectly designed already. Not perfectly, but it's designed already. He can just take that, and since he's amazingly funny and a great writer, even though like he had just like basically gotten started on writing specifically in ink, like the way I write dialogues, but he very quickly picked it up. So that's just super. Phil is a genius. So he did those, and that was amazing. And then I did the second drafts on them and like developed them further. But the rest I wrote myself, and that's a lot. It was like I think I say 1.25 million words were written on the project, and it's like 700,000 in the actual game. And to keep that all into perspective, I barely had any oversight, and I am shocked that I got away with so many crazy things in this goddamn game. It's insane, especially since like Raw Fury, I have a publisher. Like I'm responsible to keep them looking good as well. Even though Raw Fury is a bit crazy, and I love that. At the end of the day, this is a very political game. It's a game that's trying to be very funny, technically, even though I don't like to look like I'm trying to be funny, I guess. And somehow it just sort of worked. I don't know how. I cannot answer how. Who knows? I think Raw Fury were as surprised as I was about a month ago when we got the first, because the game wasn't finished for the longest time, so we weren't basically able to get those sort of checks in line where they go, okay, wait, what are you doing, Chris? Should we like actually rewrite stuff? There was no time to do that, so I could just
you did the whole I've launched a nuke, and actually there's only 5 minutes till it goes, so it takes 6 minutes to reverse it, and
I made the choice, guys. Dr. Strangelove here. Don't worry about it. But basically that's how it ended up, and it's just I'm obviously the way it works for me is that there was like one situation in one of the political dialogues where I got feedback from my main playtester, who my assistant producer, who basically told me this joke specifically doesn't work because it's implying this. And I read it and I was like, oh yeah, that's like, I didn't mean to make a joke about genital mutilation. That was not what I intended. It accidentally became that, and it became a very weird tone after that. Okay, I'm gonna fix that. So literally throughout the entire game, like the political stuff, there was one thing that I changed based on like arguably sensitivity reading. And that was because I agreed on it. Like, oh fuck, that's not what I meant. And everything else just went through, which I am surprised about because there's a lot of rants and weird stuff going on. And nothing like even since they were written so late, those internal monologue things, I wrote those in like very short time, just ranting about politics because I need to get these done. I've left them to the last moment for some fucking reason. Even Phil didn't look at them, so he gave me some feedback. Like I think it was a few days before launch, because he was playing through the game, just giving me a bunch of extra feedback on that, just to fix the last stuff. So he gave me some feedback on those like a few days before launch, which is fun. But basically what I'm saying is that I had to keep myself in check. I have to always, just like Ragn with the different voices, just go back and forth.
You had your skills chiming in. Yeah.
Yes, the creative director versus game manager, project manager. To be able to go, what do we do? Let's do something absolutely crazy, and then, or do we have time to do it? Is it reasonable? Is it actually fun for the player? And those two just fight it out forever. And I think I've gotten pretty good at it over the years because I've had to do it, basically solo for a very long time to be able to keep the project going. And that's why it kind of works. Something like that.
Would you do it again in the same way, or would you? I couldn't even finish. I couldn't even finish the question really, right? Laughing because I imagine you'd have had to have learned nothing from the experience to do it exactly the same way, right? It's a strange question.
Yeah, I had a week where I was like, I'm not sure I want to do this again. Maybe I'll do something else. Who knows? And then after 7 days, I think I want to do this again.
Yeah, I had that lined up actually. Like, what was the split between moments of this is the fucking greatest decision I've ever made, and what the fuck am I doing? Because I think game development, right, is a very attractive art form for lots of reasons. It can make you never have to work again in the most, extraordinary circumstances. Or it can be like horror stories about what it's like to crunch and things like that. Like
it's a whole
It can be. It's fucking tough going, right? So you did a lot of it on your own. Yeah, just wonder, like, how big a team would you have next time on a project if it was up to you?
So I'm looking at it this way: if I end up making something that's radically different from Ebb, as in, like, I have a bunch of different ideas for fun games that would be set in the same universe or maybe another universe. Gameplay wise, I would be really, really interested. Like, I'm a strategy player. I play grand strategy games, right?
Yeah.
I have told myself that I will never make a grand strategy game because, first of all, it's kind of a cursed genre. Paradox have stolen all the attention, and they deserve it. And also because I like playing them, so I don't want to make one, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like that.
I've also heard that they are one of the hardest things to make. I spoke to some guys in Poland, and they were like, it's just numbers, basically.
Yeah, I've heard that it's role-playing games and grand strategy games that sort of like statistically do best on Steam, because not because they're actually like magic games, but because there's so few of them, because they're the hardest to make, kind of.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make a grand strat, but what I want to do, and that's like the pitch I always like whisper to people when I meet them, is like, I would love to get $500 million from some investor that's not going to look at me for 6 years. I would like to.
This is sounding like a solid plan so far.
Right. This is how money moves in the industry. It's great. I'm almost half joking. But
No,
$500 million, right? Well, $250 million. And then I would like.
Hang on.
Yeah. I have a pitch here.
You've already reduced the budget by.
Like, we're moving up. We're moving. You can only look. I'm an entrepreneur.
I can see that.
You have to pump those numbers up. Like, we're selling. So just to be clear, Esoteric Ebb is selling really, really, like, better than I ever imagined. And I am nowhere near rich. I am not rich. I do not have a lot of money. What I do have is a job. I have a job. That's great. That's all I wanted in the world. But for other projects, the smartest thing would be obviously to just keep it small. Because the reason why Esoteric Ebb works is because I am sort of a dictator. I have personal oversight in every single part of the game. And I'm working very closely with my collaborators, with Gibbet Games, with Speldosa, with Vestberg, with Anders Back, to make sure that all of the pieces are aligned. And I'm also, hand selecting people who are who understand, who I'm communicating with, so that they understand exactly what we need in order to make it happen, and giving them space to just go wild and do fun stuff, so that I can, exploit their artistic wonders to make an even better game. So that's what would be best to do in the future: make small, interactive narrative games, interactive writing games, wherein you do similar stuff to this with a bunch of writing, and do fun mechanical stuff. I'm gonna expand on it, absolutely, but keep it tight. And of course, the problem is, if you're gonna release the next project, it can't be smaller than Ebb. But you don't want to make it twice the size, because then you're gonna ball out in scope, and you're gonna have to obviously get more writers. And if you get more writers, you're gonna have to get writers who are able to crunch in the way that I sort of crunch, or write in the speed that I'm writing, in my particular style of the dialogue writing, which is not a super suitable way to write dialogues necessarily. So you'd have to put in much time for that. It's just, it would very easily turn into a project where I cannot guarantee the quality. Whilst making Ebb, I always felt like I can guarantee the quality as long as I have the time and the personal health to keep it going. But if I had $500 million,
yes,
okay?
So we're back up to $500 million.
Yes, if I had that, I would make an Elder Scrolls killer with in the Esoteric Ebb world, with that sort of art style. Ultima Underworld inspired, where you're like underground and it's super immersive sim, and you have dialogues that are less Ebb inspired, where it's like super deep, but more where you have super class focus of like really fun character progression with really in-depth quest where you can have multiple solutions and it's all system driven, and that would take like 8 to 12 years to make and $500 million. Thank you. I'm done now. There we go.
So we'll start a GoFundMe for $500 million immediately after this is published. Because honestly,
Fuck me.
It's like I'm going off slightly off topic here, just because you mentioned it. Have you had much chance to play games in the last couple of years? Have you played anything yourself?
Yes, I play games all the time. I usually try to stick to my genres. Like I even during like hardcore Ebb times, I found time to play at least 25 hours of Europa Universalis 5 when it came out. Love it. It's the best release Paradox have done in years. It's actually playable on release. Thank you, Paradox. I almost said the first name of a few people who work there. That's great. But like I love it. It's great. And then I also play a bunch of narrative games because I always I played Dispatch. I streamed it with the boys. That was fun.
Did you? I've not played Dispatch yet. Yeah, it's just I've been playing Kingdom Come 2 recently.
So much fun.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I put it off for so long because I didn't really get on with the first game that much.
Me neither. I got like a quarter in and then I'm like faded out.
Yeah. I just couldn't get on with it at all. But the second game is really, I think if I was, I'm not very far actually. I should say that.
It's a big game.
But I've been really impressed with how brave they've been mechanically more than anything else. Like when you're first introduced to alchemy, and it's not just like Skyrim where you mix two things and hope for the best. Like you've got to follow the recipe book. And the combat is like, actually, you can't just slash until you win. You actually have to watch what's going on. So yeah, I was really, really impressed by it. Yeah, I don't know. I was fascinated then because some of the things you mentioned there, the Elder Scrolls killer, I was like, God, I'd love for you to do like a Kingdom Come style. You're the cleric, a bit like the Dragonborn or something, and you're just like, yeah, fuck yeah.
But it's a question of like why if you only have X amount of hours to make a game, where do you want to focus it? And I feel like since this thing I'm doing right now is working, I'm not sure what the next project is going to be. I'm very open about that, but I'm gonna wait till a month at least to see sort of how things settle. But I feel like it's going to be a natural progression to just take the tech I've evolved for Esoteric Ebb and keep developing it as things move on, and then see where pre-production takes me, and also work more closely with Vesper, Anders Back, to sort of like get like music going immediately and get the illustrations and concept art going immediately instead of waiting until a lot is already finished, because it would be fun to collaborate. You
drew a lot of your art initially. No, that's not
painful memories.
I'm not. I started laughing because so what people won't see is Chris got a habit of like having a big grin on his face most, and Google won't, the recording won't show it, so he immediately makes me laugh. Yeah, you drew a lot of the original design, right? And then you had Oscar Westerberg, who has done amazing work.
Such a good artist.
I honestly, I really love it, and I do hope you do the coloring book as well, because I genuinely would pay lots of British pounds to have one of them. Yeah, no, I like the sound of that actually, Chris. I think a tightly controlled narrative experience and controlled by someone like yourself, I think you've proven already that you can write really well. You've got good humor. I think the world would be a better place with more tightly written narrative experiences like that.
I agree with that. I do want to see more games. Like I made Ebb because I wanted Ebb, right? I want more games like this, and I would love to do stuff like give my tools, make them more available to people, so that because people asked to see if they can help somewhat in the like development of interactive writing as a practical art, instead of it just being like I always sort of cringe about how Disco Elysium has amazing writing, and they don't talk about the design. Talk about the design.
Yeah.
Genius, and so on. But it's yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the influences, because look, we talked quite a bit about Disco Elysium, but so the last time we spoke, I hadn't played Planescape.
Oh, you have now.
Well, I played about an hour. So,
That's a classic experience. You play for an hour, and then 6 years later, you're like, "Oh, maybe I should pick it up again."
I'll tell you why though, because Chris Avalone emailed me in December and said he'd come talk to me this summer, and I was like, "Shit, I'd better hurry up and play the 7 trillion games that he's had some hand in."
I would say, like, my recommendations of his canon, whatever, would be Planescape Torment, Alpha Protocol. Like, even though, like, you can argue that
was that Chris Avalon? Was it Alpha Protocol? Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I mean, I could be wrong. Could be very embarrassing.
He's got a very long CV, hasn't he? It's like ridiculous what he's involved with. Yeah.
That, then I guess Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Yeah. KOTOR 2 is fantastic. Despite the fact they had to cut it short, I think, if I remember rightly.
Yes.
Yeah, they did. I can't remember the reasons why, but yeah.
One of those things. Same thing with New Vegas, right? It's always an idea of a great game usually shines even through a layer of bugs, jank, and early releases. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ebb, honestly. So.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You were perfect at the door, I think.
Oh, thank you.
But then I'm definitely. I reckon I might be Esoteric Ebb's biggest fan. I'm going to make that claim now. And it's interesting because, like, I'll tell you where I am. I suppose it's a kind of unique position I'm in as like a Disco Elysium YouTuber, if that's even what I am.
The world's biggest.
No, I'm not actually.
Oh yeah.
I am. As Alex from Summer Eternal once described me, I'm Timu Jamrock Hobo.
I mean, Timu Disco Elysium.
Yeah. There you go. We are both Timu knockoffs of two much better disco brands.
Oh, it's a career, baby.
Yeah, someone's got to fill that gap, haven't they? So no, I am only the second biggest. So we're in I was thinking about this the other day. I actually came to Disco Elysium later than a lot of people. Final Cut was already out. It was like post-lockdown or something. So I was a little bit later than everybody else. And by that point, I had all kinds of mysteries, questions, things to dig into. And now I'm at a weird place where I'm a huge fan of this game. I know that you mentioned the elves greasy fight. No idea what you're talking about. I have no fucking idea what you're going on about. And that to me, I'm like,
I love that.
There's like a whole other experience there. And I can sense that I could get as much out of exploring Ebb as I have Elysium. And the best thing about Ebb is I hope or expect at least that Raw Fury doesn't have a former financial criminal ready to steal your IP from you. So we're going to get to do that more and more and more. So yeah, just a weird position for me, I think. It looks like there's a fun journey for us to have ahead. And like when I had Argo on, there was like 3 years of, God, we got so much to ask you.
Yes.
And I hope that we can do the same with whatever you bring the world as well, Chris. Yeah.
Nice.
That's where I am. So anyway, I started the question in a completely different area.
I'm going on tangents.
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck we're doing now. But this is very Ebb, actually, that we are all over the place.
What is love?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me started. So some other people. So D&D, Planescape, Disco Elysium are very, very obvious, and you've been very candid in saying how much those things have inspired you in this. But one area which has been brought to the fold by the fan base since is Discworld and Terry Pratchett.
Oh yeah.
In terms of the humor, the art style, of course, different, the setting. How important was Terry Pratchett in Discworld to you making Ebb?
When I heard the first comparison in 2022, I had to go read them.
Oh, wow.
I had, like,
Wow.
about it, obviously.
Yeah.
The turtle with the elephants on the back.
Yeah, of course.
The guards, all of the classic, the death. Blah. I had not read any. I have now read a few. I like them a lot. I get it. I since I read it during the development, like 2023, basically. I can definitely say that it definitely inspired like big parts of it for sure. But it's mostly from a perspective of I don't want to try to just do whatever he did again accidentally, and I also want to try to expand on it instead of just trying to reiterate. But Terry Pratchett was a wonderful writer, way better. Like I always say, other writers are better than me. I want to aspire to become as good as Terry Pratchett. That would be a solid goal to set by like the 4th or 5th game or something.
And the good thing is you can't measure that. So you can claim it at any point and it just becomes an argument that never ends. So
I'll go to Twitter and write after this. It'll be great.
Actually, you're right. I forgot. Most arguments are settled pretty quickly on Twitter. So that's a good place to put it out there.
It's great.
So limited influence from Discworld. That's fascinating because I never read much Discworld growing up. I've read a couple of books. Oh my god, this is going back years now. But I was more familiar with the games. I was more.
I've never played the point and click adventure games, right? I've seen from it. But for whatever reason, those were not in my like canon of point and click adventure games when I was a kid. But I played a lot, so unlucky.
Yeah, they are. Interestingly, they are super duper rare on the PlayStation 1, and you have to you can't get one for cheaper than like 50 quid on eBay.
Well, just emulate it, like
obviously. Not that I would ever.
Piracy is bad.
You wouldn't steal I don't know if you had this, but when you bought a VHS or a DVD in the UK, the controlling, whoever fucking deals with, I don't know, video theft, they'd have like this big thing. You wouldn't steal a car, so why would you steal a movie? And it was this like super serious, how dare you? You walk in with a couple of DVDs for mum. She's gone, oh great, yeah, we'll watch that tonight. But if you walked in with like a bag of swag from the local hi-fi store, she'd go, what the fuck are you doing? Oh dear. So
I'm not gonna mention how as a kid my family did a bunch of stuff like that potentially. I learned a lot from my dad. It's great.
Yeah. Was your dad Del Boy Trotter from Only Fools and Horses?
Hardcore.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's the Asgalist upbringing in you see, Chris. That's how it goes. So I'm curious now. It was remarked quite a lot, and is still part of the discourse around. So Elysium, for example, is a world that existed in people's heads for many, many, many years. And it's hard to imagine that the world that you've given us in Esoteric Ebb could have existed only in the last 5 or so. I'm curious, when did you first start to think about Ebb and creating that world? Was it something that, a bit like Disco, where you were doing D&D sessions, or something before you thought about a game? Like, what came first, the esoteric chicken or the Ebb?
Esoteric egg. Esoteric egg.
Esoteric
Come on.
egg.
It's
well, I thought so. I thought I was being clever by saying the esoteric chicken.
The obvious thing.
And
my god.
Okay, all right. You're obviously
too smart for me.
No, I think you're probably just better at writing comedy than I can think on the fly. Yeah, how long? What came first? The chicken or the egg?
It was a great question. Great question. But basically, I can tell you this: that I spent like 2018 was my year when I started really hardcore playing D&D again. Like actually, because I tried as a kid, never got off. 2018, one random February, I think it was February 6th, on Roll20. Well, it's like I spoke with the guys. I just started playing as a player in one game. I was just sitting on Discord with the guys as per usual, and we were bored. We were talking about which like Warcraft 3 map to play or something, and I suggested, yeah, let's just play D&D. Fuck it, we've never done that. We can do it. Let me get started. I'll set something up in an hour. They made some stupid characters, first time thing. We had a beaver, a robot, a grumpy dwarf with a name generated from Dwarf Fortress, and a human changeling who eventually turned into having blue skin, who was named after a soda, and all of his family members were also soda related. Stupid character.
Excellent.
They ended up playing those characters for like 2 years, and then in a part 2 for another year and a half. They are now level 20 and are gods in heaven. Great, wonderful. So that was starting of D&D, and I played basically every Friday or so for a couple of years. I still play most Fridays, and I basically took that. That's what started like Ebb RPG as a project. The fact that I wanted to take that and like expand that into digital form to see if I can do it myself. But I never had a homebrew. Never. Didn't have my own world. I always played in Faerun, basically, and a bunch of other worlds. We had a great campaign in Ravnica, for example. Love Ravnica. A bunch of different worlds, because I was always of the opinion that we don't need more fantasy lands. It's done. We don't need it. Faerun is already basically the perfect D&D setting to play if you want the standard fantasy thing. If you're gonna make your own, you can put in so much work to make the most amazing background, the most amazing history, and you're still not going to get even close to the actual depth of a world like Faerun, where you've had hundreds of authors going into it, and obviously Ed Greenwood, who is just a god. You're not going to touch it, and especially you're looking even deeper in something like telling an actual story in a world like that. Tolkien did it best first. He already did it. It's like you're not going to be able to compete with that. You can tell your own little Teemo version of it, whatever, and that's fun. That's great. We'll love that. And like, there's Moorcock, and there's obviously Sanderson, and so many amazing different ways of doing fantasy. Absolutely. But I'm not Sanderson. I'm not going to be that for many years, probably ever. Why would I? Because I've made a bunch of fantasy worlds when I was a kid and stuff. World building is really fun. I love it. But I am very aware of the fact that it's extremely derivative to do it again. If you want all the tropes, because that's the thing. My players like the tropes. I like the tropes. You want to be able to make an elf in your world, because people like elves. You want to be able to make a dwarf, especially if you have new players, because new players to D&D are always going to be, I want to do the tropes because the tropes are fun. I want to be a sorcerer. I want to understand what the things are when I go into it, so I don't feel too like, oh, well, my wizard is called an esotericist, and that's different. And we don't have ley lines. We have strings of yore. It's like it becomes sort of ridiculous at some point where it's like, no, it's a ley line. There's wizards. You do that. You know what a wizard is. Go. And I understand why you want to do something your own, absolutely. But I'm such a perfectionist, I guess, that I just felt always like, why even try when there's already fun worlds that I really like Faerun to play in, or Ravnica. You can play in Ravnica. It's not like as developed as Faerun, of course, but it's still a fun urban sprawl, perfect for an urban sprawl campaign. Fucking perfect. Why do you need Norvik? It's just another urban sprawl sort of D&D campaign. But in 2021, I was basically at the point where I'm like, okay, I sort of kind of need to have a homebrew at some point. It's like a thing you should do. And if I need a homebrew, especially if I'm going to make, because RPG was like turning into an actual thing by that point. It was right on the cusp where I found the art style, and where it turned from a shit project and I would never show anybody to something that I kind of actually wanted to show. And for whatever reasons, personal stuff, I ended up in a situation where I was basically stuck in my apartment for about 2 months or so, not really doing anything other than just needing to get my mind off stuff. So I sat down and started writing a lore Bible for a world. And usually when I start writing like that, I do it because not because I'm bored, but because I need to I want to do something that's stupid. I want to do something that's as stupid as possible and just get it out on the page. That's the entirety of Esoteric Ebb, by the way. It's just the stupidest idea I can think of, and then just spewed out. And this world, ridiculous. It is a fake world where nothing exists, and it's metatextual. So literally every single creature you could imagine exists because all the other worlds are connected to this one. I'm stealing from every single fantasy land in existence so that every trope can exist. And it's everything can exist. And if my player wants to play a pink penguin with a top hat, that's really stupid. That exists in this world because it's connected to a world where that happened somehow, and there's an entire culture where they got stuck and they got dragged in here. And it's like the stupid version of Planescape.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's the pitch. And then I thought, okay, well, let's do that. And then do the impossible thing of trying to make that interesting. Trick people into playing this stupid setting and see if I can do that as a challenge, because it's fun. And that's the Esoteric Coast. It's the stupidest idea possible, just because I didn't want to do something that was just the same thing. And it's just some things I succeeded in, some things I didn't, and it's always expanding. And that's where we are today, basically.
Amazing. So it's just the most Christofer Bodegard answer to the question of and like it is very deep actually. I do respect a huge, like I was a big lore diver in the game. Like every orange keyword that came up, every opportunity to read more and talk to people more.
It's all real. Like that's the thing. It's supposed to be silly and stupid, and then you twist it on its head and go, okay, the pink penguin is real. Just like in D&D, it's always a trope in D&D of how you have a player who makes a really stupid character, and then somehow the character turns out to be like super integral and super important, and you're like, that's the thing I'm doing, but the entire setting.
Yeah.
And it's real. It works somehow.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
What was your like favorite part of the lore? Like, just pops into your head.
Oh, I was literally going to mention it in my next sentence was the fact that you crafted out different eras. Ebbs are wide-reaching, big esoteric events, right? Which alter. I mean, forgive me, like I haven't spent 3 years lore diving yet, but like
you're completely correct. I think the point of that was just that everything's sort of bullshit. That's the interesting part. That's why I love reading so many people talking about it, because immediately it's expanding the world just by it being in my head, which I love. Continue. Sorry.
No, and that was it. I was like, so it's baby steps, right? At first, like you could find yourself like, so God, how am I supposed to remember all this? Like,
yes,
but I kind of know that more likely it's going to be repeated over time, and it's going to sink in that way, which it did. So I know that the Gate era was the first era. Is that right? Have I got that right? The Gate era.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely.
And I know that
you're not supposed to. You don't have to know that it's the Gate era, Fade era, Divine era, Arcane. You're supposed to know that like Gate era was the first thing back in the day. Yeah. And then you have a bunch of arcanists that did some stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have Urf with his new city. If you know those three things, then the history of the world for this particular game is like, you get it. Everything else sort of falls into place.
Yeah.
That's I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved all of that. I loved reading about the history of this world we were in. And like I was just sat there like, God, what does it take to come up with? I always think like, I was a big Song of Ice and Fire fan. And you think about the level of detail that world has, and like, and the thing about Westeros is actually a huge amount of those books is telling you about its history. and not just recent history. It spends most of its time telling you about thousands of years of history. And it was a similar feeling I got from playing through Ebb. Was like, oh, okay, I'm getting like I'm not just getting an insight into like with Harry Dubois, just as an example, your furthest kind of mind goes maybe as far back as the Revolution, right? Like 50, 60 years or whatever it is. But with something like when you call something an era and you've got multiple of them and you go all the way back to the Gate era and you're like, wow, God, I've got like hundreds of thousands of years of history here that I could tap into. And like, I'm only getting it. I can't wait for the next game where it's like just in the Gate era. That invokes that really. This is the thing I felt the game did incredibly well, was make me curious about what I was being told. And I think there is huge value. I've said this to multiple people now. The value of the mundane in a conversation is like, if you're making an RPG right now and you're not thinking about how actual conversations happen,
what do they eat?
Yeah, you're missing a very, very important part of about what keeps people in a conversation. There's a particular success. I'll just say it. Zero Parade is a good example. Sorry to say, he who shall not be named on the podcast, but the thing that struck me about Zero Parade was it seemed like it was trying for every single line to mean something, or be poetic or kind of off kilter, or kind of just, there had to be like some extra element to it. And the thing that I felt was missing the whole time I played on that demo or watched people play it was nothing's making me curious about the subject matter here. And I realized playing Ebb what was missing. This is a strange kind of duality in my head. I was like, because I couldn't put my finger on what Zero Parades was missing until I played Ebb, and I was like, that's it there. The mundane, the normal, the everyday stuff that people talk about didn't feel as present there. So yeah, huge kudos to you for recognizing that, and I think it's a big part of making these kind of narrative experiences enjoyable.
It's such a difficult situation to be in, also because it's like, I imagine it myself. Imagine if I'm the one who's going to make a game that's like Disco Elysium with all that world, because Disco Elysium had an amazing world building to defeat all other world building, right? And one of the things that they did so well is one of those, God, there's a term for it, but when you basically mention something in a dialogue and then you don't explain it. It just happens. It flies past. Everybody in the world knows what it is, and you don't do the as you know, Bob situation.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain it. And the fact that, like, it's one of those things where you have to be careful about, because it can very easily turn into the thing that, yeah, I didn't succeed at all places in Ebb, but it's one of those things where it could very easily become too confusing. It could very easily become a thing of like, oh, if 60% of your player base is just not going to follow and are going to be, they're going to zone out, that's bad. But if like 10% does it, that's probably good. That's fine. They can zone out. It's fine. But you need to have that very similitude, whatever, so that it feels like it's reality. By just having people act like you don't have to explain what a Panzerwan is.
Yeah,
everybody knows what a Panzerwan is. It's like a banana but green. It never goes ripe. Cool. The world has that. You don't need to explain it. You can explain it with clues, and maybe it eventually becomes a thing if it's important. And you can do that. That's fine. But there's also a lot of like cheating involved in going into a world like Ebb, where everything is also on its aesthetically facing forward window, entirely aesthetically medieval fantasy. Like, you have a knight, you have a goblin, they're in a fantasy town. You pick up a sword, you have a helmet on, You have a zombie in the first room. There's lots of weird stuff going on, but immediately the player at least has something to hook onto. They have a fantasy, boom. And then the fact that I can then take that and keep twisting it on its head, that's what makes it fun and like kind of new. But it's cheating in a lot of ways because I'm it's my first game. I'm not trying to make it hard on myself. I'm not trying to be artsy fartsy. I'm genuinely just trying to make a mass media produced product that people can enjoy. And that's fun to do. But in order to do that, I also sort of feel like I need to, in order to do my personality thing and all that stuff, I need to allow them to be a bit confused. I need to allow them to just go wild, have the opportunity to ruin their own campaign, and generally speaking, just have a world building where things can get a lot confusing sometimes, because it's also maybe not important that you know exactly what all those eras are. It's layering. It's like an onion. It's like Shrek.
Very good. Yeah. There was another. I mean, it makes sense. And again, as we're talking, I can see the similarity. Baldur's Gate does it really well.
Faerun, love Faerun.
Yeah. Disco Elysium does it very well, obviously. And you always have like, this is where the amnesiac element. I mean, like the cleric he hasn't forgotten everything in the way that Harry, but he's a little bit misty on stuff because he's obviously had a traumatic time floating in the river and all the rest of it. But
that's like an RPG thing, right? Because if you take a player and put them in the head of a character, unless you're very, very exposition heavy at the start, the player's going to feel like the guy has amnesia. It's one of the reasons why in the early playtests, I in my earliest writing, I was like, he has half amnesia because he was in the river, he died, whatever. But I was very clear at one point, I'm like, okay, fuck it. The first thing that Int says to you after you wake up from the slab is, you do not have amnesia. You remember everything. Just click on the words, stupid. It's like, it's a bit heavy-handed, but I needed that in order to just set the stage on the fact that you are not playing Amnesiac in this game. It'll feel like it because of the setting and because of just how RPGs work in the sense. But you are not. You know everything. You're just a weirdo. Have fun.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of being a weirdo, the minute I found the wooden bucket, I was like, right, that's not never coming off my head ever again. And I debated actually getting a wooden bucket for this podcast, and
fun.
I should have done it. I was just gonna turn up on camera and be like, right, let's go. And it would have been hilarity all round. Just talking a little bit on this exposition stuff for a minute. Is that why you elected? So there's a really good design choice in here with the orange keywords and being able to prompt those words. Like, so one of the criticisms, of course, and it's funny, like Disco Elysium, most people pump in points to the intellect skill because they think, well, shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a detective. I'm going to need to be smart, right? And what happens for a lot of people?
Encyclopedia.
Yes, exactly. Was that a direct influence on your decision to have it as a optional? I thought it was really smart actually, because I was like, that was definitely a problem, but actually not for everybody. There were some people who were like, oh yeah, I loved Encyclopedia telling me all this, and you left it up to people.
It's better. It's not a solution though, because I'm getting so many, and this is just a thing, and I'm gonna think about if there's a way to do it differently in a potential future game, if I'm still gonna do that or whatever. But I still get the exact same comments that Disco Elysium always did when it comes to people who go, the game has way too much lore dumping going on, and that's because people want to click on the highlighted word, and I don't make it too clear in the beginning that they don't have to, which is perfectly fair. Like, people are going to click it, and then they're going to keep clicking it. And if they have 18 intelligence by the time they exit the first room, they're going to keep clicking them. And then they're not going to... There are 666 glossary entries in the game, which is a fun fact. And about, what is it, like 60-70% of them are intelligence.
Yeah.
And most of them are in the range between 10 and 18, which means that If you have intelligence within that range, you're going to have a lot of things to click on, and that means that most of the and we're talking at least, what is it, like 25,000 words of stuff to read, which is a lot to read within the first like 10 hours of the game, just spread out throughout the game. That adds to the time. It's a thing, and it's a design choice. And for, like you say, some people absolutely love it. It's entirely optional. You don't need to click on it. And I probably should have added a bit more hints towards the fact that you don't have to click on it. You could argue around that. I'm not going to change it because I feel like it's the game is out. Right? It's done. But it is an interesting thing, and it's a quirk, something to think about.
I liked it, but then again, like I shouldn't.
Me too. So.
Yeah, like it's not going to be for everyone. Just in the same way that reading all the text is not going to be for everyone, as I'm sure you've seen. Like, in fact, I think just about every request has been, can we please? It's either can we have it on console, or can you add voice acting? Is basically the two main things. You can answer them now if you want. Any plans for voice acting?
Sure. So basically, the localization is looking like this. We're looking into it to see if it's if we have enough money to properly do it. Because the main problem right now is not the actual translation necessarily. The problem is that it's going to take a lot of time to set up the systems properly, because the game barely released in a playable state. We did not have time to optimize stuff like localization stuff. Some of it is set up, but it's gonna take some time. And then the question is stuff like which languages, how much money, discussions with the publisher, and we're all gonna look through that. We're gonna see if it's possible. I can't say anything right now, so who knows? Specifically when it comes to stuff like which languages, I don't know. Who knows? I'm hoping for as many as possible. Maybe it'll only be a few. We will have to see. When it comes to voice acting, the cost of that, we're currently like talking about calculations, a lot of like checking it out as much as we can. Like I mentioned, the game is very much like it's a smash hit in my eyes. It's great. To do voice acting, it kind of needs to be a bit bigger than a smash hit potentially. So, but at the same time, voice acting does add a lot to the game. Like if you look at the Disco Elysium with the final cut, which is obviously a good thing to compare to, they sold a lot more copies after 2021 when the final cut came out. That is something to keep in mind. So it's all a matter of financials and investment. We will have to see. I'm hopeful, but considering the current state, I should not and I will not promise anything, because and the main problem is just that you want to do it with as much quality as possible. Because we could do it guerrilla style and just do it cheaply, maybe a little bit longer time. But if you want to do it with really high quality to the point where you feel like the game will probably deserve, that's expensive.
It's got to lift it up, hasn't it? I think is the thing, hasn't it? Whatever you do has got to, in some way, enhance the experience. What about console release? Does that come into the same conversation? I suppose is yes, it opens the door to more revenue, but then there is a cost to porting it to different devices and stuff, I suppose.
Yes, we're basically looking at it, how it looks on the behind. I'm hoping for as many as possible. Who knows what will happen? But it'll be very interesting to see. And I want to at least push. Obviously, I'm going to push on. I've said it for years to get it on as many platforms as possible. We're currently only on Steam, which means that there's stuff like GOG too and a bunch of others. So I'm hoping to get it on as many platforms as possible, basically.
Yep. Fair enough. Okay.
Politician.
Yeah. I'm going to. By the way, it plays like brilliantly on Steam Deck. I think I had.
Oh yeah.
There were like really minor niggles, which I think Ted Litchfield expressed in his. Like, I had the same things. I actually messaged Ted about it. I was like, oh yeah, I had a weird thing with the inventory where sometimes I couldn't move around, or it wasn't always clear to me when I was preparing spells what I was supposed to be doing to moving on. But yeah, like I think
UI stuff, that's basically stuff that I'm not we might look at it for a future console thing, depending on how things end up with consoles, if that ends up. More specifically, it's entirely a UI thing where I make all the UI, right? It's a very specific thing where while I'm working with a lot of artists, I'm actually the one who does all the art for the UI. Specifically, I don't like draw the character art that's in the UI, of course, but everything else I do myself, because I like having that control of the graphic design of the game, even though it might be done better by others. But by doing the graphic design myself, I'm able to do stuff like do marketing stuff by myself by making my own art, and also I'm able to utilize Vestberg's artwork in a beautiful way that doesn't make his artwork look bad when I turn it into a whatever marketing thing I want to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. But I'm getting better at UI design all the time, and it's so much fun to look at all the feedback for Esoteric Ebb, because I'm going to take that into my next project and do a much better UI design there. I'm very excited to hop on a UI design for the next one. It's going to be fun.
Good stuff. They would definitely, so the console, and this is going to be like a weird final 20 minutes or so to the podcast now, because they were supposed to be like my final question. Go, okay, well, we look forward to whatever you produce next, Chris. And so I have got a couple of other questions I want to ask you, just because I found these particular areas fascinating. So first of all, I actually, in a weird way, think it was easy for Disco Elysium to make 24 skills talk and communicate with a player, because they are very specific individual parts of a human personality, right? How did you approach making a limited amount of skills, which are more traditional D&D skills? How did you go about giving them personality, decided what kind of traits were going to sit with which one, etc.? What was that process like for you?
See, that's very funny, because when I think about Disco Elysium, I still have absolutely no idea how they managed to write that game with so many skills, because they did it amazingly, and they managed to give every single one space, make it so that when players chose a signifier skill for a certain thing, there are a few that people argue are duds or not. I wouldn't know. I've only played with a few, and like my two main playthroughs that were like actually big are, of course, I started with Inland Empire, and then I did a Shivers run, because everybody mentioned. I saw some stuff about mentioning how Inland Empire is fun beforehand, so I'm like, oh, that sounds like could be cool. And I love David Lynch, so it's like obviously that's the first choice, and then Shivers because of all the stuff you know. But what I wanted to do with Esoteric Ebb specifically is I wanted to, first of all, make my own life easier by making sure that the design space of each of the ability scores more or less coagulate into a conjoined sort of part of the mind that is, from the Disco Elysium perspective, a lot of these different things in one. And it's basically just about making the fact that the game's writing is a bit more more simple, more straightforward, less poetic, more I call it like a working man's writing or whatever. It's just it's getting to a point. He side, she side. They're telling you what's happening. Listen up. The fact that it's a bit more in that sense in the writing makes it so that I'm able to focus more on the straight up stuff of what these 6 things represent, and then give them each. And I feel like I could have done I always feel like I could have done a better job, of course, but specifically because I learned throughout the process. So the worst writing is at the start, and the best writing is at the end when it comes to the ability scores, because that's when they formulated the best in my head. And I didn't have time to just rewrite all of it, because I did 700 words. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But it's like that's also good, I feel, because that means that they develop during the course of the game, wherein you get to the best stuff at the end, and the game keeps improving in a sense. But keeping them separated in my head has always been about giving them sort of keywords and making sure that they are leaning towards those archetypes that you choose in dialogues. Like I think my most is it my favorite? My favorite to write is arguably Constitution, because Constitution is the one that's the most quiet. It's the one that's designed with the most unique system, because Constitution has, I have these calculations that show the average DC of each of the chimes, right? So you have most of them, I think all of them, have like an average DC of 12.
Okay.
Except Constitution, which has an average DC of 13, which doesn't seem like that much. But everybody says the Constitution is like quiet and weird, and the people say like that's fine. It's Constitution. It's a dud skill, dud ability score, whatever. But the Constitution has only like 5% less chimes than Charisma, and Charisma is the second least talking chime, only because they're pretty close, all of them. And that's because Constitution usually only chimes in very loudly and very talkatively when you're up towards like 18, 20. So you got to be a really Constitution heavy guy in order to get Constitution to speak, actually, because Constitution is just your gut. It's just going to rumble sometimes when things get scary. It's not going to have a coherent conversation. It's just
I was going to say, yeah, my experience with Constitution was mostly when things were going wrong, right? Like, shit has hit the fan. Yeah.
It also spoils the entire game like a few times early on in the game. It's like
does it actually?
It tells you what's happening. Like, oh, you're gonna see this guy, and it's gonna watch out for the cobbler or something like that. And then at the end of the game, if you have 30 Constitution, you get spoiled for the entire franchise. So that's like, yeah, great, perfect,
brilliant. I and it's such a brave. I was in admiration. I don't know whether it was just pure excitement, but like the level that you were willing to share stuff about the game, and I think it goes back to like the fact you were willing to release the first day of the game.
Oh yeah.
Like that takes some balls, Chris. To be fair, you know, you were tweeting all kinds of stuff like, oh yeah, if you do this, if you do that, and giving all these insights, and yet somehow, like, nobody really got spoiled. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm a super sensitive person when it comes to spoilers. Like,
oh yeah, I have a friend who's very sensitive to that too. I'm not, but I have several friends who are, and so I'm empathetic to the plight.
Yeah, but I never felt like you cheated me out of something, or I'd missed out, or like I'd been robbed of a unique, like a mystery experience or something. It's a strange phenomenon, but you did really well to capture that. You know, these details. Your journey will be your journey, right? And
something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's interactivity, right? It kind of solves it. And we had a strict policy of the only thing in the entire game that could not be spoiled was the cobbler stuff.
Yeah,
that's it. Everything else in the game could be shown off. The troll fight was in the trailer. Even big toilet guy. It's just in the trailer. It's fine. We
toilet guy. Yeah.
Great anti-spoiler stuff. But yeah, basically it's just show everything, because we are a small indie game. We are desperate for money. We need attention, as much attention as possible. And hopefully the worst thing that we could do is just be quiet, because for the sake of being quiet. So spoilers be damned, a bit like that.
Yeah. I interrupted you, actually. You were mid-flowing your skills. I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to continue on in that point.
Oh, yeah. I could mention that I think the Constitution is the most fun to write, just because it's the most challenging. But the one that's most in your face fun is definitely intelligence, because intelligence is just the part of Ragn who is genuinely kind of a complete egotistical fascist. It's just the stuff that's just completely, you are the most perfect person. Nobody else knows anything. You know everything, and you should rule the world.
Yeah,
it is very simple. And the thing is, intelligence is not sexist or racist or like in any way sort of like in your face, generically evil in that sort of way.
Yeah,
intelligence is just you are objectively best. Obviously.
Yeah,
there's no question about it. Even the low intelligence one, which is so much fun, except low intelligence is you are the best and then gets everything wrong anyway. And think about it. It's the perfect ego. Intelligence is pure ego, and that's what's so much fun about it. Whilst everyone else is, I think I had a harder time getting pretty much every single other chime right. Intelligence just clicked from the start. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a pretty high intelligence build, very low charisma. I remember, I can distinctly remember being like, "Fuck!" Like on a few occasions, like, "God, my charisma is killing
Too
me."
bad.
Like, it's really
I watched
making me
I watched a streamer play. They played the strength int combo. I chimed in at the end and just wrote, "Hey, you know, thanks for playing my little game. Hey, fun. By the way, you accidentally picked the strength int fash combo. Whoops, oopsie daisy."
yeah, delivering that hammer blow. Yeah. Just out of interest, there's so many characters and so much to explore. And this is like me asking you to pick your favorite child, I suppose. But was there a character that you personally enjoyed the most and enjoyed writing the most?
The cobbler.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you asked me my favorite character of Disco Elysium last time, and
Yeah.
I a pretty good memory for some reason, so I remember that. And I said Harry because Harry is my favorite. Like, you want to be in the head, and technically Rang is my favorite because he's Rang.
Yeah.
But the cobbler, the fact that that dialogue was so incredibly difficult to start writing and the easiest to get done. It's such a long dialogue and it just happened like that. I'd prepared throughout the entire process to get to this one place in the story, and I was scared. I was horrified because I knew all the stuff that's gonna happen there. Confrontation with Snell, different variations with or without Snell. You need to make it all work without, because all the lore implications of what the cobbler is, what the cobbler did. How do you work that into the story? And I know people have a bunch of different readings on it. I love that people have a bunch of different readings on it. Not everybody think that I succeeded in managing, balancing the emotions and the situation. Perfectly fair reading. I think that's very interesting. But I am so fucking happy with how it turned out. And I basically got it right on the first try. I did some minor editing after Gorm needed some more editing, mostly from the game design perspective, to get those choices really snappy and fun.
Cool as fuck guy, by the way, Lord Gorm. I thought his big
so
flaming sword and his much cooler helmet than my wooden bucket, which I still had on in the fucking,
Oh yeah,
I was in the plane of like I can't remember what it is. Like I'm still with this fucking wooden bucket.
it's perfect, and I think he comments on it too at some point, which is so much fun.
He does, yeah.
Oh, it does, of course. And the sound effects and the music of that encounter, that was all born from that. Basically, I know that the animation, Jonathan did amazing animation with the.
Yeah.
I did not mocap that one. That was mocap by Jens at the office, just the random guy at another company that just helped out. He did such a good job. The whole sword
where he
and
swipes at you and stuff like that. Yeah, so good.
It all came together perfectly.
Yeah,
Jonathan with the animation and Isak with the sound effects. Fucking great. They showed me once it was done, and I'm like, yeah, good, perfect. That's why I love working with them. It's like in 99% of the case, unless I didn't communicate properly, they nail it on the first try. It's beautiful.
Amazing. And so we are talking about. I like, despite the fact I did say at the start, I'm not going to go too into spoilers, because I do think the final moment, people may come across this and not realize what's going on, right? But the final scenes were incredible. In terms of what the cobbler did and what it meant for Snell in particular, I felt that was handled really well. And actually, I really I have to praise the ending quite a lot, actually, because they were very. For me, they connected with me on a level which was just unbelievable. First of all, I'd grown really fond of Snell. I think lots of people have. There's the short rest. There's the moment where he questions how you could possibly know how the weather is because you've got a wooden bucket on your head. Snell in general was really, really fun, and I liked him a lot. I wanted to like him, and then that moment where he asks the question, and the answer is, "Well, I tried." And I was like, oh, I was expecting some sort of excuse type answer, trying to wow, it's complicated and it's not like that, or the world isn't black and white and there was reasons, but he's just like, well, I tried and it was a gamble that didn't pay off. I was like, oh God, like how do you deal with that answer as Snell?
Yep.
That was I was like,
and I didn't want to play it off as a thing of either that it's too light or that it's too heavy, because you also need the epilogue to be a bit light. You need to, it's the end of the game. You can't just be sad. It's a fun game.
Yeah.
That's the thing that Rolf, you always talk about the fact that, they were worried that I was going to make a downer ending that everybody's going to hate. Because that's a thing to worry about. You need to do an ending that's actually, the ending could have been better on reactivity in some ways, absolutely, but it nailed the tone. That's the important part. And the thing that Snell reacts to that, and the fact that Snell is given some space to react to it. Because it would be very easy to just also go, yeah, whatever, make a little fun of it, and then just move on. Snell can deal with it. But he's given several moments in the epilogue where he actually gets to talk about it too. Because you need to talk about that shit. It's important to process it afterwards. The player too. So yeah, it's very important. And the fact that it's also avoidable. If you don't, if you choose to avoid Snell, if you don't do that, if you don't bring him, you get a unique version of those scenes. That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's also why, for example, why I mentioned in the beginning, there aren't many scenes in the game that are obligatory. You can skip most of it. But you have to do the fire trap. You have to do the troll. And you have to do the ending. You can do different things in those scenes, but those are the choke points that nail the entire experience together. And without those, the game would have been more reactive and more open if I had not locked those things down. But I knew that if I didn't, you wouldn't get the breather, you wouldn't get the troll, and specifically basically the emotional backstory of Ragnar as a character.
Yeah,
and then the ending just wouldn't hit at all.
Yeah,
if you miss those as a player. So I'm gonna be a rude DM and I'm gonna trick you into thinking that I'm not railroading you while I'm a little bit railroading you in order for you to get those emotional beats, so that you can then enjoy the actual ending of the game.
Yeah.
And then make choices in the ending, of course. But that's the thing. You're gonna hit those notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just there is a very important question I want to ask about Snell in a minute, but before I do that, I'm just gonna. So I want to avoid having a downer ending, so I'm gonna just quickly. I haven't cried at a game since maybe the first time I played The Last of Us.
Oh.
So that's 13 years ago.
A lot of people say they cry.
I cried at what Rang's prayer was.
Yeah. The final little nail.
Poof. Yeah, I big spoiler, because I need to say it. Big spoiler. His prayer every night. And there are clues to this all throughout the game. Actually.
It's like an achievement named, and one of the backgrounds is just called it.
Ah, okay. I wish I had one. He prayed every night for one friend, right? God, I was like, man, that's fucking sad. That's like really fucking sad.
But you get it, because you've been in his head all this time, and you understand why that might end up being the case. Yeah. And if you're lucky, there's 6 hidden flashback scenes in the game. So for different people, it's going to hit in different ways. But those 6 background flashback scenes each show a part of his childhood, like the past, that all give a different image of why potentially he might end up in that situation. And a player is only statistically going to run into about 1 or maybe 2 of those on a playthrough, and that's like by design.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Those are very important, because they all of them work in different ways of showing why you're a ostracized weirdo. But they all, if you get just one of those, it helps hit the ending better, and then you can replay it and see if you can find the others.
Yeah. No, someone on Reddit has already. I'd seen that. Someone had done like all of the background items that tell you about.
Oh, yeah. The crawl story.
Yeah. All of the key items that tell you about, because like one of the stories or feats, was it part of a feat, which we haven't even talked about actually. The feats, one of them talked about how he ate loads and loads and loads of apples one after another just to make himself sick so someone would pay attention to him. So like the
Yeah,
other
it
kids
was
would like him, something like
a
that.
bunch of kids wanted him to they
Do it, yeah.
basically just made a joke about the apples, and then he wanted to,
Yeah,
it's a thing, and it
Yeah.
works on an emotional level because it's like you get why he's in the situation, right? He's always been this guy, and
Yeah.
that's the whole thing of like, it's not Monty Python, it's not skits for the sake of skits. You do a bunch of wacky stuff, you do the pink penguin from another dimension, and then you explain why, and you make you care about the pink penguin,
Yeah.
and that's the fun part, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good. I have actually two more questions. So first of all, I want to know how you came up with implementing the Behold feature. That is, hands down, my favorite feature in the whole game. Like, I love that so fucking much. Where was you thinking with that, and why did you see fit to implement that?
Complete accident. Because I designed the UI, right? A lot of the game just happens because I designed the UI in a way, and I'm like, I don't know how to do, inventory in a specific way, so it's like in this way, and then I'm like, oh shit, I don't have the time or like I want to put in the effort to design a wider UI, so I need to solve this problem because people get too many stuff. So let's add a deep bag space where you can drop stuff as like an emergency thing. Most of the game just happens of necessity on the fact that this is my first game and I'm trying out stuff, which is super fun because that means that there's so much novelty in the fact that, it's the same thing with Disco Elysium in a way. It was their first, not everyone on the team, obviously, but basically it was a first title for a bunch of people. They, like they say in that wonderful documentary, kind of had no idea what they were doing. And that's what kind of makes it fucking awesome. The fact that there's so much novelty, nobody does something just because you have to. They can do new stuff, and usually that ends up being a fucking what's Kermit say? Like quagmire feature, right?
Yeah.
It can end up being a fucking headache, and a lot of Ebb was a headache. But the Behold feature specifically was because I designed a UI, this inspired by Monkey Island, basically, point and click adventure game where you want the verbs to interact with stuff. And I designed a try interaction window UI, 3 bubbles that pop up. And I'm like, it has to be 3 because that looks fucking good. You can't go 4, it's too many things to think about. You can't go 2 because then you could just do it, right click, left click.
Yeah.
It has to be 3. Well, you talk with people and then you steal stuff from people. Those are fun. What's the third thing?
Yeah.
That's how the Behold feature came to be.
Amazing. Wow.
A fucking accident.
Do you know, by the way, funny you mention it. Do you know
Oh.
I didn't steal from a single person?
Yeah, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. There's you can play a sneak. Some people like playing the rogue immediately, and if you do that, you get a bunch of custom interactions, a bunch of failures. Like if you try to steal from the Sphinx when you're up on her stage.
Yeah.
Around her butt, right?
Yeah.
She kicks you so hard you fly off the map, basically. Absolutely hilarious. But you're never going to see that. It's kind of similar to the Griffin thing, so you don't kind of lose out on entirely. But fun stuff that you just miss if you don't steal anything, and that's good. You should miss out on stuff. Same thing with Completionist. Like, I love the fact that so many people want to play Completionist and want to do all the quests. Perfectly fine. Some people really want to do that. Go ahead. But the game is designed so you're supposed to miss, like, the Hag's Hut. You're supposed to go, what? The Northern Cave? There's a Northern Cave after you have played it 3 times already. That's good. Yeah. That's how the game is supposed to run. Which is annoying for some people, and I perfectly understand. And I try to make sure that there's, it's not completely impossible to miss stuff because that's just annoying. But yeah, that's the thing. And the same thing with the Behold feature. I want to explore the Behold feature more in the future because it's quite literally just the most basic implementation possible right now. I literally just show you the stats that exist on the character because I realized at some point, like, I'm going to give each character stats because it's fun role-playing. They don't really use them that much in dialogues or whatever because there's no like super interaction except for stuff like charm person or inflict wounds. But it's fun to have stats for me as a writer to just know this guy has 8 intelligence or 16. So why not show that to the player? And then
I liked all of like you gave him like he's a level. What was the one? I screenshotted it. It was like a level 1 It was I hadn't like you basically got a character sheet, right? And I can't. I'm wasting my time telling you.
Is it like a level 1 unemployed or something?
That was it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Level 1 unemployed. Yes, that was the one.
Because I realized everyone's like either a class or some sort of job, and mostly it's jokes because it's funny. So you have like level 3 merchant, and then it's level 1. Oh, this guy doesn't have a job, so I thought it was going to be sailor first because that's like one of the backgrounds in D&D. No, he lost his job, so he's level 1 unemployed.
Yeah, but I like the idea that you could get to like level 10 unemployed. And this is a guy who's like mastered like his remote for his TV is like always like his house is designed purely for his unemployment, right? Like everything is just like within arm's reach. You know, he's a level 10 unemployed. That's how I
That's the dream. It's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that also implies, of course, stuff that, for example, when you say that you're a rogue, you turn into a rogue eventually. The name on your character sheet switches out. If you steal a bunch of stuff, you also become the dick-ass rogue, so it changes dynamically without even telling the player because it's just a fun little thing. But that implies that your character sheet is based on stuff like what you intend in dialogues and what you actually do, and not necessarily. So he's just really, really into the idea of being unemployed.
Yeah.
He identifies as it. Same with alignment. It's just intent. It's not what you actually do. So maybe he has a job. He's just, mentally.
Yeah. He like those people who are very much, look, man, fuck the corporation. I just come here, get some money. I want to do as little as possible and get the fuck out of here with my paycheck. Yeah.
I was going to say, so he's an Ascalist.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh God, very good. My final question, I do think it's quite an important one. We haven't really touched on him too much, but arguably the thing that people would identify as the most, I mean, maybe not, maybe it's just me speaking, but the most obvious comparison to Disco Elysium is that you have a stoic partner alongside you all the way through. Well, if you want, I think you can choose to have Snell around or not, right? But I
he's
think
a bit more dynamic than you might imagine. But it's mainly a thing of giving a bunch of variability and also allowing the player to just feel like they're in charge of the experience. Even though it's definitely designed from an emotional perspective to have Snell with you more, it's perfectly okay to just don't like Snell, play the solo ending, and then have a chill ending with him. It hits emotionally, but in a different way, almost more suitable depending on how you view it. So sorry.
And my question was like, really, just how do you approach having, like, it's such an obvious thing, and I know Disco Elysium wasn't the first by any means to have it, but it's an iconic partnership now, right? Because of the nature of Harry and the nature of Kim and that the way that relationship works. So I wonder how you navigated, like, you must have at least felt that was a comparison people were going to make. You must have had some trepidation about, okay, how do I deliver this in a way that doesn't feel like it's just kind of robbing that exact dynamic from Disco Elysium? Yeah. How did you manage that? Because I do think you did a really good job with Snell. And I thought that partnership was good.
Over that too. Like, how did that land? How did I get away with it? Sort of way. But I think very early on when I did my analysis of Disco Elysium, I found that basically one of the things, the glue that holds that entire experience together is Kim Kitsuragi. The fact that he's just not necessarily his character, because his character works with Harry very well, but just from a plot tool, like a thing that pushes you along. Why do you go and actually solve the mystery, and why don't you just fuck around all day? It's because you have a guy with you who's emotionally pushing you, entirely emotionally, technically, because he's not like going to force you to do anything. He's going to push you towards doing it. So what I needed was something plot related to push you towards doing it, because just like what I realized now that I have let people loose in the game is that they are just going to dungeon crawl all day, not pick up Snell, get lost, like at 6 a.m. die from exhaustion, and then talk about it on the forum about how confused they are, which is a legit way of playing the game. Something that I could have handled a bit better potentially. But you need a guidance. You need someone to just be with you and stick with it. a straight man to your antics, to some sense, if you're going to be a wacky character. And that was very troublesome, because obviously if you do that, immediately it becomes even more of just Disco Elysium again, especially if you do another very straight man to sort of stand up and just look at your antics and go, please, detective, don't do that. That's very bad.
Is that where Lady Sageleaf and Darrow come in to an extent? Because as much as like Snell is quite a soft push, right? He's like, come on, you should be doing this, really, kind of. Like Snell's kind of like, look, you're a fucking idiot. Can we just get on with it? Type situation.
It's fun to compare Kim and Snell, for example, just because Kim obviously is way more by the books, orderly, noting things down. It's one of those things where at the start of the game, for example, you can steal Snell's notebook, and his notebook is just terrible scribbles. Like it's whatever. He's not going to use it throughout this entire adventure, more or less. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. He's not that kind of character. He is a fly by his pants, just get the job done, super competent, super focused. But he's a very, very different character. He is chaotic good, not lawful. Definitely not lawful. So that's just fun to just try to look at that and be like, okay, well, first of all, obviously I do need to actively, just like I did with Rang, actively distance from Harry, actively distance from Kim. Do those two things at the same time and try to find new space that's purposefully built to, since everything else is very, very similar, at least do those things and story, emotional stuff differently. And in that, I found Snell, which was a character who just clicked so well with the Rang I wanted to build, and specifically is a character who is super fun to sort of mess with, right? Because he's competent. But he's also a wacky guy. He's the kind of guy who's going to make some jokes. He's going to enjoy kind of watching you get into trouble, even though he doesn't really say it, because he does need to get, he needs to get to the serious stuff. And when he hits with an actual serious thing with the cobbler, for example, it's interesting. It becomes a real thing. He's a real character. And he has a lot of depth with him that you don't get to see throughout the adventure, because you're just having fun and wacky adventures. And then you get the hint in the breather. And then you get to see the real thing in the... you can see some of it with the Ras, for example, because, the whole being called a cran and stuff like that. And then the cobbler has the whole explosion. I'm sort of like, I am a writer. I worked as a writer for years, but I'm mostly a video game writer. Like, I'm not super experienced with writing, professionally writing books, for example. I'm not super experienced with writing screenplays. But I think I've learned a few things, and I try to apply them, and especially during this whole process, I have gotten so much better at it. That it's going to be fun to apply that to a full project from the start next time, and also potentially see where all of these themes that I'm working with can take me next.
No, thank you. God, like honestly, we've talked for 2 hours, and I've sort of sat here realizing just how little I've actually explored about Ebb. Like writing the questions, like trying to think of how to like cover all of the bases. So I guess like an apology to people listening, like if I didn't ask the thing that you really care about, and like please don't like murder me in the comments or anything like that. Like there was so much. I hope over time we can maybe come back again, and when all of the great mysteries are turned into one giant iceberg on a Reddit meme or something.
I'd love to. That'd be great.
There'll be a million things to explore, like we've done with Disco. But thank you so much for giving me 2 hours of your time today, Chris. I know that you're like so popular now. You're like the cool kid. I thought if I don't get him now, I'll never get him, because he'll be like accepting BAFTAs, and him and Jeff Keighley will be like celebrating at the Game Awards and stuff. So yeah, no, it's much appreciated.
It's super fun. So like, obviously you notice when I'm answering questions, I go on tangents, and it's so much fun to just discuss the fact that this is a thing I made, and like I'm still processing it, and specifically I'm learning, because now is the point in pre-production for the next thing where I have to learn what went well and what didn't go well. and what people think, and what I could do to try to, do something interesting with the next one. Not
Yeah.
be boring, be novel, and so on and so forth. So your input is super, super interesting too, and I'm very much looking forward to that review eventually.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. And just want to thank you as well in person. You put me in the credits amongst another list.
Yeah.
That's, I cannot tell you, that's like bucket list level. Wow, thank you so much for doing that. That was very kind of you.
No, that's just fun. I put you in the list of like people who basically early influence when it comes to just push and help and so on. It's just fun to do.
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, well, that's been another amazing, fun episode of my stupid podcast. Thank you very much, Christofer Bodegard. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one, where it's going to be Danny O'Dwyer from No Clip, and then
that's cool.
And then we will catch up with Martin Rattasep, who worked on Disco Elysium and Pentiment. So there's lots to look forward to.
Oh, nice. That's going to be fun.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'll see you again.
Bye.
Bye.